All right, let's get this show started tonight. Motorcyclism 101. Good evening. Thanks for joining me tonight. I'm going to talk about a few things, a little bit of news, and interesting topic that I was talking with some friends about tonight, and it sparked my interest. So I started doing a little research into the topic and found out that it's not so uncommon. Never really knew the term, but after reading up about it a little bit, I find that probably most of us that have been riding any amount of time at all probably do a little of it and maybe don't realize it. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit because it looks like it is a good safety topic to bring to your attention. So first of all, let's talk about, well, first of all, I'm a little late tonight with the motorcyclism. This is a note to Johnny and any of you other guys. So I left my computer plugged into my microphone and extra cameras and extra screen and all that stuff, and didn't have my laptop plugged into the wall. Well, here, let me tell you what happens. It drains your battery. So I sits down tonight getting ready to do Motorcyclism 101, and guess what? My laptop is so dead it won't turn on. It shows me a little red dead battery thing on the screen, and that's it, and shows that it's charging because I plugged it in when I figured out it wouldn't turn on. So I had to sit and wait for it to come on. So here I am. I'm a little late. Plus, it gave me a little more time to do a little bit of research into this topic, and I think we're going to have some fun tonight. So bear with me as we move through this show today. First thing I want to do is talk about some news around the motorcycle world. Let me pull up this screen for you. You can see what I'm seeing. We'll talk about a few different things. I'm going to mainly read some headlines, and we'll go from there. A few of them we'll expound on a little bit more than others, but I just want to touch on a few things that's kind of interesting that I found in the motorcycle world. Now, this is coming to you from Web Bike World. I will reference it in these videos on YouTube and on Facebook when we get done. This was an afterthought, so I did not put it in to begin with, but I will reference it. So any of these articles that you want to actually open up and read more of yourself, you can certainly click the link that will be placed inside the body of this post and go in and read whichever article you want. Each one of these is a separate article. All right. First of all, this probably isn't shocking news to anybody, but it kind of interested me. So listen to this. It's kind of crazy in my opinion. Los Angeles has a new zero emissions roadmap 2.0 plan. Here's their plan for down there in the greater Los Angeles area and in the state of California. 80% of new vehicles to be electric by 2028. 80% of the vehicles in Los Angeles have to be electric by 2028. So you're looking at 28 years from now. Seems like a long time. It's not that far away. It's not that far. The electric vehicle movement is now in full swing. It's not just electric motorcycles that are included in this, but they are an important part of the equation because I'm sure of the amount of motorcycles on the roads in California. There are a ton of them. A lot of people use them as their daily commute, right? It's their daily car. It's their daily driver is a motorcycle. According to right apart, Los Angeles has an ambitious new goal for electric vehicles, the new zero emissions roadmap 2.0. You want to read more about that? Like I said, you can link it here and go in there and find out what all that entails. It seems like to me that by 2028, with not 80% of the vehicles right there, 80% of the vehicles being required to be electric, they're going to need to learn to keep the power on somehow so that these folks can charge their car and charge their motorcycle so they can go to work. Just a thought, Los Angeles. Figure out how to keep the power on prior to 2028. All right. News topic number 2 for tonight. Triumph and James Bond pair up in No Time to Die. Sounds like to me there's a new James Bond movie coming out. And Triumph is going to build the motorcycle for it, or has built the motorcycle for it. It's this, well, you can see it right there. I'm not sure what you call them. It's kind of a dual sport, kind of. Cafe racer type. I don't know what you'd call it. But there's 2 models that are going to be featured in the new James Bond trailer recently dropped, and they are Triumph motorcycles in the film. 2 different models. There's the all-new Tiger 900 and the Scrambler 1200 XE made by Triumph. They'll be in the film. Cars and motorcycles play a prominent role. There are the usual Aston Martin vehicles, but there's also Triumph rides. Okay, so in that movie, it looks like there's going to be some, well, what James Bond movie doesn't have? A bunch of action and a bunch of crazy stuff going on with fast vehicles and hot rod chases and motorcycles. And so there you have it. New James Bond movie. It's coming up. If you're a James Bond fan, look for it. Me, not so much. It is a cool looking motorcycle. That's about as far as my interest goes in it. And then also with that, the Triumph Tiger 900 debuts. So Triumph is joining the dual sport arena. Now, before we go too much further, I'm just going to say that in recent years, I've noticed a lot of those dual sport bikes out on the road. They have gained popularity big time. Now, here's the part that intrigues me about it. It does not look comfortable. The seats are narrow, skinny. They don't look that comfortable to me, but I'll tell you what, I've seen people in the local area here from all parts of the country, all parts of the world. Some of them are outside of the country on those bikes. You know, they're racking up some miles. They're putting down some miles on these things. And I guess the beauty of it is you can jump on the dirt trails for a while, gravel roads, whatever. Go see some backcountry. Oh my gosh, imagine the beautiful stuff you could run into traveling cross country on the back roads. And then jump on the highway and motor down the road. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. It's not really my thing, but it might be fun if I was in the market for, multiple motorcycles. I would entertain one of those for some off-road action, mostly for off-road stuff. But anyway, I'm not going to say I wouldn't because I've never been on one, but I don't think I'd want to go across, East Coast to West Coast on one. But I don't know. Maybe they're more comfortable than they look. So Triumph's coming out with a couple of new ones of those. Well, actually several, 6 of them, 6 new ones. 2020 Tiger 900, 900 GT, 900 GT Low, 900 GT Pro, 900 Rally, and the 900 Rally Pro. Basically, the company has a variation for every little sub-segment of the adventure touring market. All right. If you're into Triumphs and you're into dual sport type riding, there you go. Check that out. Article will be posted. There's a guy named Guy Martin. He's gonna recreating the famous The Great Escape jump. If y'all recall that, it's this one right. Where is it? Right there. One of the most iconic movie scenes ever. Just to be clear, the video below doesn't show the jump, but Martin did make it. That jump attempt will air on December 8th. However, the video below does a good job of setting up the event by providing interviews with numerous people involved in the project. December 8th, be looking for the recreation of the famous Great Escape jump done by Guy Martin. Might be cool. That might be something you want to check out. I think I might. Ducati organizes a fundraiser in New York for the Carlin Dunn Foundation. Norden 901 concept is headed to production. So Husqvarna put the Norden 901 concept into production. So Husqvarna is building a new motorcycle. The Royal Enfield adding switchable ABS for the Himalayan, among other updates. BMW's 1800cc Boxer Twin specifics revealed. There you go, BMW 1800. Ought to be a pretty bad machine. Could Bimota's Tessie H2 make 300 horsepower? Could you imagine 300 horsepower on a motorcycle? That's this one right here. Could you imagine 300 horsepower? Horsepower to weight ratio that is crazy. That would be crazy. I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun. It'd be crazy. That'd be a lot of horsepower. It'd be hard to keep that rear wheel underneath you, I think. Yeah. You have to have a lot of throttle control. Ducati's coming out. Their CEO confirmed a Panigale V4 Super Leggera. Yes, Ducati. Bring US the Superlight. There were rumors floating around that Ducati was working on a Superlega version of the Panigale V4. And now Claudio Domenicali, I can't pronounce very good, has confirmed it. The CEO told Motorcycle News that the Superlega version of the bike would be coming soon. It'll be a special edition. Ducati makes some pretty fast machines. You know, I'm not against any two-wheeled whatever it is. Get in the wind. That's what matters. I don't care what you ride, but get in the wind. I'll tell you what, those sport bikes, these things, they, I don't know. I just have stayed away from them. Never really been on one, never experienced one much. I see them going down the road, 100 plus, riding wheelies and stuff. And I just think, that's not for me. I like my geezer glide. I like to relax, kick back, put my feet up, be comfortable, and just putt down the road at my speeds, not 200 miles an hour. We don't need that. I like speed, but my gosh, there's a limit. So I've just always stayed away from those bikes. I've got a lot of friends that were sport bikers that now ride cruisers. I don't know. I guess there's a time in your life when you want the speed and thrill and everything, and then later on, maybe you decide that you don't want the speed and thrill. All right, let's get done with this news here. Aprilia announces limited edition. That's about graphics for another sports bike deal. This one here is the one that kind of intrigued me. Trademark filings suggest Honda will build the CT125 Trail. So it's brought back some memories to me. I have a friend that in high school, he had the Honda Trail 110. It looked like that. It looked just like that, pretty much, kind of, but it was orange. And I tell you, I don't know how we lived through the days of the Trail 110. Luckily, it was a Honda Trail 110 automatic transmission. It wasn't real fast, or it'd have probably got us way back then in those days, because we had some crazy days on that. And now, I'd get on the back. I rode on the back of that sucker all the time. It's kind of funny, because that brings me to a story I was telling the other day. Maybe at work. I can't remember where I was telling it, but back when I was a teenager, I had a Suzuki GS 1000 triple cylinder. So with a triple cylinder, you got triple carburetors. Well, and it didn't have second gear. So you'd wrap it up really high in first gear, and then you'd go right to third gear. So you'd, and then it'd, and you'd have to let it build up. So that's that story. But I wrote it like that for a while and wrote it all over the place. But where I'm going with the story is, back then we didn't worry about things like you do today. And my buddy, the same one that had the Honda 110, the Trail 110, got on the back of that GS 1000, was up in Wyoming, Bridger Valley, Lyman, Wyoming. We got on that thing. He got on the back, and we rode that sucker all the way to Heber City, Utah, down I-80, and went down there and visited my grandpa, who was in the hospital and wasn't expected to come out. So I wanted to go visit him. Joe's like, I'll go with you. He jumped on the back of that sucker, and away we went. Never thought twice about it. Today you see two dudes on there and everybody makes jokes, me included, and stuff. And I mean, times have just changed, but we were just kids, teenagers, and really didn't think twice about it. Didn't bother us. It was just what we did. And we rode that bugger all the way down there, all the way through all the traffic and everything on no second gear. It was crazy. We had some crazy days, and luckily we're here to talk about them today, but my mom's prayers, I'm sure. So now let's talk about this. Let's move along. Let's move on. Let's move into this next topic that come up tonight. I was talking to a friend after work, and he started talking about this, and I was like, I wasn't familiar with the term and whatnot, and he started talking about it, and it kind of intrigued me. So I come home and did a little bit of research, as I said earlier, and looked it up a little bit, and it's called trail braking. So it's used in cars, motorcycles, a lot on the racetrack, but there's a practical application for it in everyday riding that'll help make you a safer rider and help you. It's just something good to know and something to study and practice. And before I get into it, let me just say this. If you are a new rider, an old rider, any rider, and haven't been to a motorcycle course, it probably wouldn't hurt to go to one and learn some of the new techniques and learn some of the techniques that they teach in there. I got some friends over in Las Vegas that teach one, and they teach it out on the track out there at the Vegas Speedway and whatnot. And, they go into a lot of this type of stuff, braking, a lot of emergency braking, a lot of different topics, and a lot of different hands-on. You're actually out there doing it, experience on handling that motorcycle in adverse conditions, because not always is everything peaches and cream when we're going down the road. All of a sudden, somebody turns in front of you, somebody cuts you off. There's so many scenarios that happen, and I just can't preach it enough that you have to be prepared. I haven't been watching my comments. Who you got here? And the more you know, the more you ride, the more training and skills you have, the better chances you have at surviving some of these adverse actions, adverse incidents, things that take place while we're out there riding. BMW. I said 28 years away. I did say 28 years away. Thank you for the correction, Mr. Miles. Look at this. Let me put that up because I did say 28 years away, but it's 8 years away. And yes, we will almost likely be here to see that. So from far away where we have electricity and where we can still drive our gasoline powered motorcycles. I'm not transitioning to an electric motorcycle. It's not happening. Let me just throw up a couple of these comments. I hadn't been watching that. I was getting comments. I was too busy talking. Oh, and a Bond movie was a BMW. Yeah. I grew up watching James Bond because it was my dad's thing. And so we never missed an episode of MASH, and we never missed a James Bond movie, right? And so since I've been on my own, I really don't care for them because I always had to watch them. And I always thought, well, that's a bunch of fake bullshit, all this freaking crazy stuff they'd do. So anyway, I rode a BMW Dual Sport from Vegas to Mesquite, and it was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever ridden. That's how they look to me. That's how they look to me, is uncomfortable. Yeah, I don't know. I know guys ride them all from coast to coast, all over the country, thousands of miles. There's guys that ride them more than we ride our Harleys, and I guess they just got iron butts, iron behinds. Let me pull this up and let's talk about this for just a minute. Going to be kind of a long show tonight. I talked a little bit too much in the beginning, but let's go over this. Let me make it a little bigger. All right, trail braking. Wikipedia. This is the Wikipedia definition, and the references are in there for this, and the video I'm going to show are already in the videos in the body of the post. So, okay, here we go. Trail braking is a driving and motorcycle riding technique where the brakes are used beyond the entrance to a turn and then gradually released, trailed off, depending on a number of factors. The driver fully releases the brake pressure at any point between the turn and which is the apex of the turn. All right, in motorcycling, let's just look at how it applies to us out there on our motorcycles. Now, I've been in some pretty extensive driving courses in a car and an automobile, and there's a lot you can do with that car that your brain and stuff doesn't let you do. But a lot of it has to do with controlling the weight distribution of that car and keeping your center of gravity centered on the car so that you have as much of the tire flat on the ground where you need it to give you traction, right? Well, that's what this is all about. So when I started reading about this trail braking, it was like, oh man, we've been, I drive like that in my car. I probably do on my Harley too, more so than I think I do. Just naturally, because like I said, I've done a lot of that. And so let's read this real quick. So in motorcycling, in applying this technique, motorcycle riders approach turns applying front brakes to reduce speed. As they enter the turn, they slowly ease off the brakes, gradually decreasing or trailing off the brakes as motorcycle lean increases. This is done for several reasons. First, it gives more traction because the downward force on the front tire is increased by load transfer. So when you apply that front brake, it takes the weight of the vehicle and moves it from the center forward and puts more weight on that front tire. So your tire's pushing harder against the pavement. So it makes sense to me. Second, as the brakes are applied and the weight shifts forward, the forks are compressed. The compression of the forks changes the motorcycle's steering geometry, decreasing stability in a way that makes the motorcycle more apt to lean and more quickly change direction. Third, decreasing speed decreases the motorcycle's cornering radius. Conversely, accelerating while turning increases the motorcycle's cornering radius. Fourth, trailing off the brakes while entering blind or tight corners allows the rider to slow if something unexpected blocks the rider's path. Because the motorcycle is already on the brakes and the front tire is getting additional traction from the already slowing, the rider can slow even more with very little risk depending on surface conditions. However, applying the brakes after the motorcycle is already leaned over can be exceedingly risky, depending on surface conditions of the lean angle. Okay, so once you want to do this while you're still upright before you go into the corner, and as you're going into the corner, you don't want to get into the corner leaned over and then grab your front brake. You're already leaned over. The natural force is already pushing you out, and you don't want to lock that front wheel because it'll slide out from under you in a heartbeat. If you're standing straight up and you apply the front brake slightly, not locking it, just slightly, you transfer the weight onto that tire and it pushes against the road. So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And this is referenced, so you can read up on it and click on all the links and everything. Good stuff to know, because when you're coming around that corner and you come around a blind corner and somebody's sitting in that lane broke down, or there's been an accident, or there's a tree that blew over, or an animal runs out, or any of the other millions of things that could happen to you while you're in a ride. If you're doing this going into the corner, as it states, you are already slowing down. You've already got your weight transferred on that front tire where you need it for braking power. So you're already 9/10 in, and stopping or braking harder at that point can be done so with very little risk, because everything's already in motion in the right direction. If you're leaned into that corner and you come around that corner and a deer runs out, or a dog, or any of the other things I mentioned, and you see them and you get on your brakes, chances are you're going to go down because you've already got the force pushing out. You don't have it pushing down prior. If that makes sense. I'm probably just confusing you, but it makes total sense to me. But like I said, I've been schooled in this on a four-wheel vehicle, and it works the same on two wheels. The risks for the motorcycle: there's a risk with trail braking because excessive use of the front brake can result in a loss of grip, as the tire's adhesion is split between braking and cornering forces. That's what I was talking about. Effective trail braking requires finesse from the rider, which can be difficult to learn. So, and the guy I was talking to tonight, my friend, he said, he was saying this, exactly what this is saying, that he just finesses. He uses a lot of his rear brake in doing it. instead of front. If you read down through here, it says both can be used, or either or whatever. The whole idea is to get the weight transfer to the ground so that you've got more of that rubber on the ground, right? Let me read this. Oh, yeah, I'll throw this up because this happened to him. Mr. Irish. Trash bag in the middle of the blew out of the back of a pickup truck. And we've talked about this many times. You know, you've got to secure your loads. And he come around the corner. Garbage blew out of the truck and caused a big chain reaction where he ended up going down. And he talked about this when he was on live with me. So I just thought I would bring this up and talk about it, because after listening to Jason talk about it and then going and doing my research, it was like, you know, this is like survival 101 out on the road. When you're out there riding, you've got to have a lot of different techniques to keep you safe, because the people, they just don't always see us. And yeah, there's just so many different things that can happen. And if you're prepared, you're more likely to survive or avoid altogether. So one of the big things I talk about a lot is run scenarios through your head. Always. I do it. Again, I learned this in other traffic stuff classes that I took and stuff, but you've got to run scenarios through your head so that you're prepared. And it doesn't hurt to think, you know, what if the car, see that intersection right there? What if a car blasts through it? What am I going to do? You're already thinking about it. If you're not thinking about things like that and it happens, your brain has to recognize it, transfer the information down to your hands and feet so that you can apply the brakes and everything. And is seconds, 3/4 of a second, second and a quarter. It takes at least 3/4 of a second for your brain to tell you to move. At, say, highway speeds of say you're going 70 miles an hour in 3/4 of a second, how far have you advanced? Quite a ways. You know, I don't have the math in front of me. I don't have the figures, but you've advanced quite a bit already before you even start slowing down, after you've seen that there's a problem. So by using these techniques, you're already on the brakes. You're already halfway into doing what you need to do to avoid that obstacle, whatever it is, whether it's a trash bag or an animal, any of those kind of things. And it does happen. Irish can attest to it. He's lived through it. I'd travel the Virgin River Gorge every day. And in the morning, I'm traveling it in the dark. And I come around a corner in my car one morning and come around the corner. It's a blind corner. Come around there, and there's a car broke down I'm in the hammer lane, the passing lane, left lane. I come around the corner, and there's a car broke down just after the apex of that corner, sitting in the middle of the road, and there's two people standing outside the car with the flashers on. Yeah, it's pucker factor. I'll tell you. Luckily, the car, and I was passing a car. Luckily, I was far enough and past of the car that I could get over. Or it would have been kind of hairy trying to get shut down, because it was like that. On a motorcycle, it would have been a lot different of a scenario, I'm sure. the braking power is a lot different on 2 wheels than 4. But I'm just telling you that because it happens, and it can happen to any of us at any given time. And so many times things happen that are out of our control. And so we have to be prepared, because you the more prepared you are, the more better your chance is of surviving. I want to play a little bit of this video. It's talking about this trail braking. I'm going to play a little bit of this video. Let me pull it up here. Let somebody talk about it that can actually talk about it better than I can. I'm going to do away with me for a minute. I'll be here in the background. Watch this for just a minute. We'll play a few minutes of it and talk about it a little bit more and call it a show.
Welcome back to iNotch Tuesday. This is Nick iNotch. We're standing outside of Pueblo Motorcourse Park, a place where do a lot of track days. I know Coop, the guy who's shooting this video, raced here last weekend, but we're not racing. We're not going to the racetrack. We're starting here to take a technique that many people believe is for the racetrack only and show you how it works on the street. Trail braking. Everybody says, oh, that's an expert level technique for racetrack only. Absolutely not. So we're going to get on the streets of Pueblo, Colorado, and trail brake, use the brakes at lean angle, brake assisted steering, and show you how much we can use the brakes at lean angle to make ourselves safer, and safer.
It's all about being safe. Safety.
Here on my Yamaha T1, I want to hit you with 2 simple truths. This motorcycle tires, they do not care whether they're in Pueblo's turn 4, long radius second gear corner, or they're exiting the freeway on-ramp in second gear, long radius corner. The tires and bike do not care. And the second truth is the rider in the middle of turn 4 at Pueblo and the rider exiting the freeway on-ramp on one of these exits have this exact same priority, and that is to not fall down, to get to the end of the race, to gather points, to get home, to get to lunch, to ride with their friends. So the bike doesn't care, the tires don't care whether they're on asphalt at Elkhart Lake or here in Pueblo, and the rider has the same exact priority. Those 2 simple truths are why we will trail brake on the street. Street bike riding with my buddy Cooper DeVille. He's on a semi-legal street bike. I'm on a totally legal SC1 street bike. This is one of my favorite street bikes in the world. And we're going to go right around Pueblo using our brakes at lean angle. We're going to trail brake pressure in the corner. We're going to trail off brake pressure as we add lean angle. Those are the 2 definitions of trail braking. Trail brake pressure in the corner, brake light on past the tip in, or trail off brake pressure as you add lean angle. If you saw the 100 points video, you're giving away braking points as you add lean angle points. Trail braking or brake assisted steering, you got to do it, or you're never going to enjoy the sport. All right, so you're thinking to yourself, man, this trail brake is something I need to get right, and you do. This might be the missing link in your enjoyment of motorcycling. It's a missing link in your speed if you're going to the racetrack, and certainly in your safety. So here's a great tip. Here's a way to practice this. I'm going to roll my motorcycle forward, and I'm going to light up the brake light. In other words, I'm going to pull the brakes on so gently that the brake light lights up. My brake pads touch my brake rotors. I'm in control of my front contact patch. I'm in control of my steering geometry and, of course, my speed. but I'm doing it so lightly that I build this feel that we have to have at lean angle. And during this next day, Coop and I are going to use the brakes at lean angle because we practice it just this way. So I'll push my bike away. I'm going to build pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bike stops. I go to 4, 3, 2, 1. It rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It stops. I'm just going to play with that light touch on the brake lever because that is the secret to this sport.
Yeah.
Easy. You know, the other shots I thought of is, you know, when you're kind of going toward an intersection, you see cars coming, and you turn and trail brake because you want to get in front of them, or you're coming to it. Like if we're going to turn in where that gray car is, we would come in, go to the brakes late because we're going to use them all the way in rather than stop traffic and hope they see us because they're texting.
Right.
They probably won't. So that whole idea of getting out of the lane because you're going to brake longer is a big part of the, I think, the city approach.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we should shoot one of those, you know, whatever. I'll put my turn signal on and we'll get out of the traffic lane.
Okay.
So should we go back through these two?
Sure, yeah.
You got something?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to push my bike around with 1, 2, 3, 4 points of brakes on, get that feel, because that's what makes you an expert rider. That ability to pull on that light brake, slow the motorcycle, tighten your radius, like you'll see in the video. So the second tip you can do to practice trail braking, to practice the feeling of releasing brake pressure as you add lean angle points. So releasing brake pressure points as you add lean angle points. Every time we come to a stop, we're gonna unload that front fork slowly. If we hold the brakes when we come to a stop, the fork stops and then rebounds quickly. We don't want that. If we jump off the brakes, the fork rebounds. We definitely don't want that, even though you've been taught that in other places. We want to leave the brake light on past the tip in and unload that brake lever smoothly. We're trading off brake pressure points as we add lean angle points. We're guiding the bike into the corner on the brakes. So every time we come to a stop, and I'm going to do a couple here for you, as you come to a stop, you start to release that brake pressure and control the rate at which your front fork springs rebound, and that will be the practice for trail braking. So every time we come to a stop for the rest of our lives, car, truck, van, motorcycle, bicycle with front suspension, you are controlling the way those springs rebound to their full length, and that is trail braking practice. Let's try it. My bike won't start. Just kidding. It's a Yamaha.
All right. Played a little more of that than I wanted, than I was originally going to. The guy, I mean, it's good to listen to him. It's good to hear this stuff. And he was talking about covering your brakes. If you don't know what covering your brakes is, it's having a finger, having 2 fingers, whatever, on your brakes. I do this a lot in heavy traffic. I don't do it all the time, but if I'm riding downtown St. George and we're in all that traffic, I'll always have a finger. I usually just use one, this one, usually on my front brake. That's about all I do, use that, or maybe 2. But you'll see me riding down the road in the traffic and I'll have a finger or 2 on my front brake. That's covering your brake. And he mentioned it. It's something that I've heard a lot of. And again, the time it takes from your brain or your eyes to see that there's a problem, your brain to tell your limbs to react, 3/4 of a second or whatever, and you've already gone 100 yards. And you maybe didn't have 100 yards to go. You needed to react. You got your brake covered. And you see that you're already there. You're not having to get in position or whatever, or reach up and grab and panic and grab too much and skid your front wheel out and go down. Just good practice, good practice to do and learn and utilize covering your brakes. And then, like he said, practice this technique by just driving down the road and you get to a stop sign, stoplight or whatever, load. And before you, as you're coming to a stop, before you're completely stopped, unload nice and smooth. Load your front end, unload it as you stop, and practice that so you can control and not. The whole idea is not to panic. The whole idea between this technique is to go to corner, is for cornering. But I'm trying to apply it into a safety standpoint for everybody to be thinking about it and start using techniques that will help us avoid a crash or avoid a bad situation, avoid going down. If we can avoid those things, we're so much better off. It's not always going to be able to happen that way. But the more we practice, the more we hone skills, learn new tricks, practice them, perfect them, get them all nice and shiny, the better chances we have when presented with a, oh crap moment of reacting in a way that's going to be beneficial for us to either avoid it all the way together or come out a lot better. My thoughts today, kind of a safety tip day, I guess. And it was all sparked by a conversation after work, standing out in front of the shop. And I was trying to decide what I was going to talk about in motorcyclism tonight. We were supposed to do Eddie's Devil's Highway run, but guess what Eddie's doing? He's riding his dang motorcycle. He don't want to talk about riding it. He rides it. So he went on a 4-day trip, left today, went on a 4-day trip somewhere around Texas, he's trying to hit every county in Texas. So he was, so that's what he's doing. I've got all the videos. I've been working on those a little bit. So I'll get those compiled maybe next week. That's what we'll do for motorcyclism. This is going to bring him on and he's going to talk. He does a lot of long distance riding, a lot of long distance stuff. And so I wanted to kind of eventually talk about that and show some of the Devil's Highway down on the New Mexico, Arizona border. Guess it's one hell of a ride. I haven't watched all the video yet. I just got them yesterday and I haven't had time to go through them yet. I've got 13 videos. So I will sift through that information and get it out here hopefully by next week. So that's kind of what's going on there. But anyway, talking with Jason tonight and some guys after work brought this, and I thought, it's time to talk a safety tip. We haven't done one lately, and I like to do those and share what knowledge that I might have or what experience I might have or experience of others or whatever with you folks, because we're all out there. We're all trying to get someplace. We're all trying to go home and see our families after a day out on our scoots and stuff. And these techniques that we talk about, most everything can be applied either in your car or on your motorcycle. We talk motorcycle because that's what we do. We ride motorcycles and we talk motorcycles, but the same stuff can work in your car. It's for an automobile or a motorcycle. But anyway, whatever you do, practice, study, learn new techniques, learn stuff that's going to get you home and help you avoid one of those bad situations that could come out of nowhere and be there. And I want to see you ride through it and tell the story. I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Friday is tomorrow. You know something before I get off of here? We are about done with 2019. I was sitting there. I'll save this for later on, more toward the end of the year. We're about done with the year. 3 weeks from yesterday's Christmas, I believe. 3 weeks from yesterday, I think, from Wednesday is Christmas. A week later, the 2019 is done. Wow. 2020, here we are, huh? knocking on your back door right now. Hey, have a good night. Be safe out there. Learn what you can. Hone your skills. Practice. Perfect them. Pay attention. Be safe. Peace.